7 different $1 million author plans to choose from. Which one are you going to go for? Are you going to begin with the end in mind and make sure that your book is positioning you the correct way so that you can make the income and the impact that you want from the amazing book that you're going to create? All right. Hey, welcome everybody. Rob here with Bestseller Publishing. This is for our BSPU Publish, Promote, Profit call. So I got a great, I think, call for you today and things to discuss, something that I've been asked a lot about. And I feel like it's something that's going to give you some clarity on moving from your book to the actual kind of impact and income that you want to make. I call it becoming an MDA or $1 million author. So I'm going to walk through with you 7 different ways that you can use your book to become a $1 million author. Some are easier than others. Some are going to fit and flow directly with you better than others do. And so don't worry about that. What I suggest you do is I suggest that you pick what works best for you. And my other suggestion is that you go all in on that thing and not think about all the other things, leave them be, but focus instead on one $1 million author plan and go deep with it. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing my screen. So we'll go off camera and video a little bit, and I'm going to do some screen share and show you guys, kind of walk through the PowerPoint with you. I'm going to give you an overview of this stuff. I'm going to teach more on it later and you'll get more, but for now, this is an overview of 7 different plans and opportunities and paths that you can take to become a $1 million author. So without further ado, let's go ahead and share my screen and let's just dive right in on it. So awesome. So, I'm not going to go into presentation mode and all of that. I'll let you guys see everything that's up. But basically, these are the 7 different $1 million author plans that you can choose from. Now, this was something I felt like I wanted to teach. And what I mentioned to you before, I've run a test Facebook group, a short-term kind of blitz of giving incredible content to a unpaid Facebook group that I had 1,300 members in, with the idea that I was going to sell a course at the end of it. If they bought the course, then great, they could continue on with me. If they didn't, then I was going to remove everybody from the group, which my staff is still in the process of doing, and I was going to remove all the trainings from the group. And they're free trainings, and I don't want them out into the world of the internet because I really gave some great stuff. And I literally created a new video every single day, which was an enormous amount of work. Plus, I engaged and commented with every single person that commented. There were over 4,000 comments, engagements, etc., in about a 2-week period. So it's pretty massive. I did this for 2 reasons. One, I did it as a test case to see if this could be a new way that we drive clients and opportunities into bestseller publishing. But even more than that, because we use my books in conjunction with free plus shipping funnels and lots of online marketing, but I did it really also as a test case because I really do feel like this is a great low-cost way for you, my authors, to get your expertise out into the world and really do some amazing things. So that was kind of the idea, is let's test it. Now, I don't have a lot to share with you at the moment because I'm still, we made good money on it. We actually brought in 2 done-for-you clients. I have 1 or 2 more that may happened because of it. We probably made $15,000 or $20,000 in revenue from the group, which is better than a sharp stick in the eye. But as much work as I put into it, that's not quite the return on investment that I want. I want a greater return on investment. However, with the done for you clients, it brings the return on investment a lot higher. It means that the group was worth $50,000 or $60,000 to bestseller publishing, which again, with that amount of work, I still have to debate if that's worth us continuing. However, I know for many of you that are getting started in selling your courses and selling your coaching, et cetera, it could be a really great low-cost way for you to do that very thing and, do a 2-week campaign and make 20, 30, 50,000, who knows, maybe even a lot more. So I shared this lesson, or at least part of this, not in as great detail as I'm going to be sharing it with you over, not just today, but over the coming weeks. But I wanted to go over it with you because I felt like there's still a number of our clients that aren't coming into the book world with the right mentality or mindset. So 7 different $1 million author plans. Let's go on. The first thing I always tell you and tell my clients is you always have to begin with the end in mind. And I'm not just talking about the end of your book. I'm talking about the end of what you really want your book to accomplish for you. What are you looking for your book to do for you? Do you want it to bring in speaking engagements for you? Well, then you better have it set up to do that very thing. Do you want it to bring in coaching clients or consulting clients? Do you want it to sell courses, etc.? You have to think about all of that and begin with that in mind. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't maybe pivot or make some adjustments. That's always fine to do. And in fact, of the 7 things that I'm going to share with you, we really receive revenue from all 7 of those things. But again, I've been doing this a lot longer than most of you have. So I want you to go all in on one, build that out, get that successful before you ever think about transitioning to another. So number 1 is kind of the simplest and in some ways the least effective, and that's royalties, future books, additional books, book deals, and movies as well. Now, we've had clients get all of these. We have clients that have made 6 figures on their royalties. I've not made that much, but I do make over $1,000 a month just from my Amazon royalties from Publish Promote Profit, which is great. Additional books, I'll share some various results, but we've had clients, because of the success of the book launch that we did, they were reached out to for traditional publishing deals and written very big checks for that. So that's something that you might be interested in and look forward to as well. And then, of course, movie deals. And we have had a couple of clients get movie deals with their books, one nonfiction, one fiction. So all of these are a potential opportunity for you. Here's what I'm going to tell you, though, before I share a couple of examples with you. If you want royalties to be the main way that you're making money, or you want someone to write you a big check for your next book, then you need to think in terms of creating new content and writing new books on a continuous basis, right? It's not enough just to have one book and earn royalties off of that, because there is a shelf life, right? No pun intended. There is a shelf life of the attention on your book. I just noticed that there's a new Stephen King movie coming out because of a new novel that he wrote some time ago. Stephen King has more than enough money, but if he wants to keep making money, because, you know, Christine may still be selling, but not as well as it was in the early days, right? Or Carrie, or, you know, any number of things that he wrote, right? Or the clown movie, It, or, you know, fill in the blank. If he wants a new stream of income, then he needs to write new content. And if that's true for him, then that's true for you as well. Let me give you a couple of examples. I talk about Kalen, but not so much when it comes to royalties, but it's at least a good example for royalties as well. Kalen's book became the #1 book on all of Barnes & Noble. It was outselling The Plant Paradox. If you know anything about that book became a massive New York Times best-selling hit. She outsold everybody, including Tony Robbins, Bill O'Reilly, when he launched his book. She did over 6 figures just in royalties in the first couple of months of her book launch. Now, she has a really big market. She has a really big audience of people, like 1 million plus followers. So she was able to sell that to her direct audience. So she's made 6 figures just from selling the book. However, she primarily gives the book away in a free plus shipping funnel and brings people in to sell other products and programs in her company. That is much more effective for her, but over 6 figures in book royalties isn't bad either. And guess what? If she wanted to go to a traditional publisher with her next book, she could easily get a high 6-figure, if not a 7-figure book deal. Well, that happened with one of our clients in a very, very narrow space. This is Ted Kallman. Ted wrote this book, The Nehemiah Effect, and he's basically in a very narrow space. He's an agile consultant, 2 manufacturing firms. Well, and you guys have seen some of this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time. You're already my clients. I'm not trying to sell you anything. But I want you to know Ted got close to, not quite 6 figures, but a high 5-figure book advance, even though his market was very, very small, all because the launch of his first book was so successful. So this is a strong and viable opportunity for those of you that do just want to write or love creating content, and you're thinking in terms of writing 1 or 2 books every single year. Then by all means, keep doing it, keep creating. I am recommitted to my schedule. I have a new book that I'm planning on launching in January, but I'm recommitting to my schedule to create 2 new books a year. Why? Because That's what I do. And that's what gets my message out the best. And quite frankly, it's what can get your message out the best too. Number two, consulting. I've shared this at various times, but consulting needs something that only a book can bring to it in the best way possible. And that is authority and credibility. Joel and Julie Landy are a great example of that, because Joel and Julie were in the full-time ministry for many, many years prior to leaving the ministry and wanting to go into the consulting world. Well, Joel knew that he was not going to get a consultant job and a high five-figure or even a six-figure check from a Fortune 1000 company by just being a minister and having worked with people for the last 20 years. So we helped him write this book, Rewired, that he then used to attract high-level C-suite, primarily CEOs and COOs of companies that were doing $20 million to $100 million in revenue. And in the very first year of his consulting business, did over $300,000. Now, you need to figure out if this is your goal, right? You start with the end in mind. If your goal is to grow a consulting business, let's say that you were X in a previous life, whatever that is. Could be in the ministry, or it could be that you were an attorney, but now you want to serve attorneys as a consultant to attorneys, right? Well, just because you were an attorney doesn't necessarily give you the power and authority and credibility to now be a consultant to attorneys. So a book positioned properly as the expert consultant to attorneys is then going to give you the authority and credibility you need to grow your business from there. So any type of repositioning, right, of who you are, any type of going from one expertise to another, or one expertise to a consultant in that expertise, your book needs to be positioned the correct way to give you the authority to do that. Now, everything that I just said is certainly true about coaching as well, but coaching is a very different space. This is Taki Moore. Many of you guys know Taki. I've talked about him before. He's a great client of ours. We helped him do $1 Million Coach a couple of years ago. Taki continues to use his book in conjunction with Facebook ads. I just saw his ad like a week ago, and it said, new book on how to get clients if you're a coach. And I'm like, new book, dude. I mean, we did this book like 3.5 years ago. It's not exactly new, but he's still using it to bring in clients. And of course, he's used it very, very successfully. So coaching and consulting are akin to one another. You need the authority. You need the credibility to attract the clients. You have to show them that you have the expertise. But there are obviously very, very different ways to deliver that product. And I'm not going to go into how to set up a coaching or consulting business. That's another training for another time, which, by the way, I am going to be doing for you if you're interested in that. Next is high ticket services. And look, that's what Bestseller Publishing does, right? The Facebook group thing that I did, that I sold a $997 course, that's not primarily what I do, even though we brought, a couple dozen people in to Bestseller Publishing's world. Ultimately, and I shared with them what the truth was, ultimately, I want to help you and serve you and give this to you, but ultimately, I want you, those of you of the 25 or so that came in, I want those of you that came in to say, you know what, Rob, we just want you to do it. Here's a big check. And so your book, if you're selling high ticket services, is a great way to position you so that people will come to you and say, you know what, you've taught me so much in your book, it's fantastic, but I don't want to do all of this work. I would rather just write you a check. Now, of the 1,000 or 1,500 people that get this book every single month, maybe 20, 50, 100 of them can write me a big enough check for our done-for-you services. But that's okay. I'm serving and helping the whole 1,500, but what I'm really looking for is the 150 or ultimately the 20 or 30 that are going to come to work with me that particular month. Now, high-ticket services can be done a lot of different ways. This is our client, Richard Maybun. We did this book for him, Red Flags. Richard used his book to get a speaking engagement, and I'm not going to read this entire thing, but you can see it. It's on the homepage of bestsellerpublishing.org. But Richard, from one speaking engagement, did over $700,000 in new business because he used his book to do two things. One, to position him as the leading authority in the space, which got him the speaking engagement. And then he used the book to generate leads with the people that were sitting in the audience. And he turned those leads into 14 sales and each sale being worth an average of $50,000 was $700,000 in revenue to his company. So now I know I've just shared a lot. I'm trying to move through this quickly, but you use your book in multiple ways, right? You use your book to position yourself as an authority so you get the speaking engagement, and then you use the book as a piece of bait, as a lead magnet. So the person sitting in the audience says, you know what, this guy really knows his stuff, and this is terrifying because he does cybersecurity for financial firms. Let's just have a consultation with him, get his book, let's go through it, etc. And of course, they can't get his book unless they come up, see him, fill out a form, exchange lead information, etc. So there's multiple ways to use it, but it positions you for high ticket services. Next, raising money. Now, there's a couple of different ways to do this. I've shared in the past about our client. This is Amir Baluch. He's a doctor. He's an anesthesiologist. He has a side hustle where he invests in real estate for doctors. Well, after he ran through all of his doctor friends, right, that trusted him enough to give him $100,000 or $200,000, he was like, man, I'm really good at this real estate investing thing for doctors, but I need more money. So he said, well, what's going to get me more money? You know what, if I write a book, and the book was specifically for, it's called Make It, Keep It, specifically for doctors and using real estate as retirement. I mean, talk about a narrow space, only for doctors, only those interested in taking care of their retirement, right? And so he positioned himself as the authority. And this was more a onesie-twosie thing, right? He didn't do big speaking engagements, although he's done some of that. And we booked him on TV all over places when we did the media and PR. But he used the book via direct mail, sending it to doctors, positioning himself as the authority. And in the first 3 months of doing it, he raised $2 million for additional real estate. He continues to use the book, and he continues to get a new influx of money that he's raising for his side hustle. The next raising money situation is for those of you who either have a nonprofit, are interested in starting a nonprofit, or want to find a way that, you know, maybe you can get engaged with a nonprofit and help them to do something cool. We helped our clients, Doug Bowman and John Mullen, to do this book, Florencia. You may know a little bit about it. You know, I went to the United Nations with Doug and John. They were invited to speak before the General Council. It was a super cool experience. I went there with a video team. We flew to New York. We spent several days. I met with, you know, that's the ambassador to Kuwait and the ambassador to Iraq of the United Nations. We met like 30 different ambassadors. We gave them copies of the book. They loved it. During this period of time, over a period of about 2 to 3 months, they raised $250,000 for their brand new charity. They got the president of Mozambique to write the foreword because their charity is founded because of the landmine problem and the prosthetic device problem, because there's so many amputees in the country of Mozambique. So it's all there in Mozambique. Amazing things happen, all because of the book and how the book was positioned directly. So raising money, a great way to use a book. Speaking engagements, I've already shared with you 1 or 2 examples of how to use speaking, because speaking works in conjunction also with consulting and coaching and raising money and all the other things. But, you know, speaking is a business in and of itself. Michael Port is a very sought after speaker. I shared about him in the beginning, right? $50,000 speaking fees. Kevin Harrington gets between $25,000 and $50,000. He speaks every single week. He's on the road 50 weeks a year. By itself, his business is generating, just from speaking fees, over $1 million a year. He loves being on the road. He loves speaking. Maybe that's what you would love as well. And so even if you're brand new and have never done speaking engagements, it will work. We did this book for a client, Renew and Sustain, several years back, Mike Dieterich. Mike's an environmental scientist, but primarily as a consulting firm that works with like school districts, municipalities, construction companies to help reduce their carbon footprint. But what Mike wanted is he wanted to be on big stages. So we helped Mike. We got him, you know, the book did really well. We got him on TV all over the country, got him a New York Times article, and then got him booked on the biggest stages in his industry. Why? Because they saw, and by the way, to give you the brief full background of the story, Mike had tried to get speaking engagements with the Green Festival in the past, and they blew him off because he had no credibility. But when we did the book, when the book got him major blog coverage, major TV coverage on the New York Times. They wanted him. So they booked him as the keynote speaker at 4 of their events, and he spoke in front of as many as 30,000 people as a keynote speaker at the Green Festival. So even if you're brand new, if you have a book and you position it correctly with all kinds of other authority like PR, media, et cetera, you can use it to get massive speaking opportunities. And by the way, that could be paid or unpaid. When I went out to speak for Michael Port's event last week, he did not pay me to come out. I flew out there myself first class. I paid for my hotel. I did all of that stuff. I took my time away from my business. Why? Because he put me in a room with 100 people that are all my ideal clients, and I already have multiple calls set up with those people that want us to do books for them. So I know that meeting, that all day speaking thing and teaching that I did, which cost me money initially, was an investment that is going to return, probably, on average, $50,000 to $100,000 in new clients to Bestseller Publishing. Not to mention, it furthers my relationship with Michael. And then there's $1 million author plans. There's products, courses, and software. Some of you are not interested in doing coaching or consulting, or that scares you, or you think, oh, one-on-one, oh, that's horrible, which it is really, really difficult, or you don't have a high ticket thing to sell, but you want to sell courses, you want to sell products, you want to take your book and make it into a course that then becomes, $197, $297, $997, whatever it is. Or maybe you have a software idea on the back end of your book. And of course, who else to talk about but Russell Brunson? Many of you know we helped Russell to launch .com Secrets. We were one of his top affiliates during the launch. Russell paid us to do PR and media for Expert Secrets. I'm featured in his book, 30days.com, as one of the 30 experts that he interviewed. And Russell has used his books along with free plus shipping funnels, you know how that works, to ultimately sell his course and on the back end, his software, ClickFunnels. Now, some of you may or may not know, but ClickFunnels was not long ago valued at over $500 million. And Russell's goal is now to get that to $1 billion. This is a 5-year-old company, and the entire company was built on a book that leads to a course that leads to a software. That is the whole plan. That is the whole way that he is doing it. Does he do other things? Sure, but primarily book to course to software. And if you've ever heard Russell's story, you know that he initially had problems selling his software until he made some adjustments, used the book as the front end. And that's why Russell keeps writing. He talks about how writing to him is like, pulling out his fingernails, but he continues to do it every couple of years or so because the books on the front end are an amazing way to attract course sales and then to attract longtime users of the software, of which, of course, I am one. So there you go. That's 7 different plans. And your best-selling book, as I like to talk about, is your gateway to being $1 million author, whether it's through one of these 7 plans, maybe a combination, or maybe just a version of this on your own that you're looking to do for yourself. So there you go. That is the 7 different $1 million author plans to choose from. Which one are you going to go for? Are you going to begin with the end in mind and make sure that your book is positioning you the correct way so that you can make the income and the impact that you want from the amazing book that you're going to create? You guys are great. Thanks so much. And there you go. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. Every week, we're posting tons more content to help you to publish, promote, and profit. So go ahead and subscribe now to the channel and click the bell icon to be notified whenever new content is available. And if you're interested in my latest book, Publish, Promote, Profit, just go to publishpromoteprofit.com.